Well, thank you very much, dear viewers. Once again, you are tuned to our regular program, a program that seeks to highlight our heroes and heroines of our struggle. The people who sacrificed their youthhood for us to be free. Very unfortunately, most of these people do not live longer to enjoy the freedom that some of us are taking for granted today. I'm your host, Lennox Glass, saying this broadcast is brought to you by Mpuma Kapa Television in collaboration with Amaqhawe Etu Foundation. You see right in front of your screen, you see Umamu Jafta, kunye noKenny Jafta. I will tell you more about these people as we continue with our program. Thank you, dear viewers, once again for allowing us into your sitting rooms and giving us the gift of time. Last week, we did a similar program where we honored one of our heroes, Lieutenant General Sindile Mfazi. May his soul rest in peace. This evening, we dip our banner to honor one of ours, Comrade Mbulelo Ngono. Who is Mbulelo Ngono, who single-handedly fought like a beast against the enemy forces? Who is he? Where is he coming from? Mbulelo made home away from home in the house of Umamu Jafta, the one that we see in front of us in our homes. Together with Kenny, they became friends. Now, we are going to talk to them about Comrade Mbulelo. But before we do that, let's welcome them. Mamu Jafta, thank you very much for doing what you did, for continue to do what you did. Thank you very, very much. South Africa is ever indebted to you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir.
Babu Kenny, we wish to extend the same gratitude to you, my brother. Thank you for being what you are, for what you were during those days. You are going to tell us. Welcome to the program, Babu Kenny.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the viewers. Thank you very much for the time that you are giving us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Kenny. Dear viewers, Mbulelo Ngono. We are going to hear about Mbulelo Ngono and why we've decided to do this program today. Some people call him Nsizwa. Kenny is going to tell you about many of his other names. Mama is going to tell you about many of his other names. But before we get to know what Mbulelo did, I want Ma to tell us, when did you first encounter Mbulelo? Mbone nini Mbulelo, Mama?
Thank you, viewers, again. I wish to make a correction. When my husband met Mbulelo, he was a young man of 22. We were not yet together or married. I think you might be mistaking me for my mother-in-law, Mrs. Jafta, the senior. I just wanted to make that a correction. Otherwise, the best person to speak about Mbulelo Ngono, his heroism, his time here in the Jafta family, is my husband here next to me. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Mama. You are quite correct. I thought you were the mother to that house. Dr. Kenny, then let's come back to you. Last week, we saw the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, visiting your area, he was not just coming there to do anything but to unveil the bust of Mbulelo Ngono as something that we believe going forward it's going to be the heritage site of South Africa. Tell us, when did you first see Mbulelo Ngono, Baba?
It was immediately after the death of Bathandwa Ndondo, who was shot at Cala. We were students at UNITRA with Bathandwa Ndondo, who was a leader of us. There were 4 comrades. It was Bathandwa Ndondo, Robert Nogumla, Manelisi, those were the people that were working with Bathandwa, and Toby Lepam. And when Bathandwa was killed, we activated more contacts with the comrades that were in Lesotho. I spoke to my father to tell him that the situation was changing, and my father gave us the refuge in one of his shops called Nagai, and he said we must use that shop at Nagai, not Lukhwaizo. Because of the pressure at that time, because a new government emerged in Lesotho of Lekhanya, which was anti-ANC, so more comrades had to come inside the country. So 2 of those comrades had to come to Khwaizo. So we ended up having 4 MK guys. And in no time, we got another one. May his soul rest in peace. Soli is known as Soli, Prusent from Cape Town. We took him to Qumbu to stay with my grandmother there, but he could not last at Qumbu because he was clear from Cape Town. He would play ball with the village boys, and the whole community will ask, what is this old man playing? Why is he playing with boys in the village? His language. So his cover story could not last there. But I met Mbulelo Ngono through that work with Robert Nogumla and Toby Lepam, and we came to live at Nagai. And then we ended up being a solid unit of 5 people, which was Mbulelo, Spiwa Mazwai, called Fana Zibu Mkontweni, Mazola is known as a commander, Makrekeza, known as Species, or Mbilo, 4 of them. So we stayed in both places, Nagai and Lukhwaizo. On the day concerned, one of our comrades was arrested in Durban. And when he was in Durban, he had a new passport, Transkeian passport, which had been stolen at Umtata. And the Natal police asked him why he is old and having a new passport. And he said he renewed it. It is not new. And they inquired on the Transkeian police of the procedure of renewing a passport. And it was in that passport that led the police to go and find us at Lukhwaizo. So on the day concerned, this is what happened. The police surrounded the yard. The Lukhwaizo yard is
before we get into that, before we get into the actual story of the day, I would like you to characterize Nsizwa to when people around Khwaizo, when they see people like Nsizwa, what did they see? What did they see when they saw someone like Nsizwa?
Remember, we're a quite trained group.
Yes.
Before they came here, we made a cover profession. We made
yes.
We had a group called Operation Hunger,
yes.
which was doing feeding scheme.
Yes.
The cover story was that they were official from the Operation Hunger.
Yes.
And it's when
Okay.
he got his name as a Zulu chap, Kaya Kasibe, Osuka Msinga,
Okay.
Udlamini. Yes. And they were looking at him as a person who has come for Operation Hunger, not
Okay.
as a guerrilla. Yes.
Okay. Kenny, we are going to just show a very short clip of the deputy president when he came over to unveil the bust of Comrade Nsizwa. And after that, we'll take a short break. And then after the break, I would like you to reflect on the days leading to this fateful day when there was a skirmish between you guys and the enemy forces. For now, sit back, relax, and thanks to the GCIS for giving us the clip. Let's take this 3 minutes just to watch the clip, and after that, we'll immediately go for a break. Thank you.
Many young souls laid down their lives for the sake of peace and the inheritance of freedom. Many young people like Mbulelo Ngono, also known as Kaya Kasibe or KK, were compelled to take up arms in the struggle in order to liberate their people. Many more liberation fighters were robbed of their youth. For most, participation in the liberation movement resulted, for many of them, with lack of formal education, missed opportunities for personal growth, but exposure to violence, to trauma, hardship, and even death. But despite these challenges, they remained steadfast in their resolve. They were brave, driven by a vision of a brighter, harmonious, and united South Africa, where all could share in equal opportunities. The merciless apartheid regime was faced with the same level of commitment to get rid of the ugly system in order to usher in the democratic dispensation.
Welcome back, dear viewers, in our last and the second segment. Allow me to apologize. Our lady who was in the set when we started the program had to rush and go somewhere. Don't be alarmed when you do not see her right now. As we have just seen the reflection of the president, deputy president of the country, Ntate Paul Mashatile, we so wish that the South Africans can begin to internalize the sacrifices of the people like Mbulelo, who fought for this freedom that they did not get to enjoy. And what is puzzling some of us, you have some beneficiaries of this freedom in South Africa. People who are giving bad names to people like Mbulelo. People who are telling South Africans that these people in exile were selling drugs. These guys in exile were stealing cars. Basically, they were a bunch of crooks. And I feel this person, a black man for that matter, the labels that he's given freedom fighters, people who fought for this country, for him to acquire the profession that he has today really baffles some of us. These people sacrifice everything, including their youth, for him to acquire academically. And today he comes back and call people like Abombulelo, people who are selling drugs, people who are killing one another in exile. Really, it baffles some of us. But let's welcome back Utatu Kenny in our program, in our second segment. Babu Kenny, I don't see you. The people of South Africa would love to see you. Press that button. Welcome back to the segment. Thank you. Now we can see you. We can see you. Kenny, before we get, I don't know if you know of this man. We don't have to mention his name. He has said bad things about the freedom fighters. He has said bad things. He's a professional. He's known. He's been saying people like you were killing one another in exile. You were dealing with drugs. You were thieves. You were stealing cars. But that's a story for another day. In this segment, Babu Kenny, I would love you to paint a picture. I know you did initially. How did you first meet Mbulelo and say, hi, my name is Kenny and my name is Mbulelo? Do you remember?
I remember vividly. He was wearing a work suit, which was blue, at the Roman Catholic Church where they were staying under Father Kess. Father Kess was a Roman Catholic priest who was an anti-apartheid struggle stalwart. He's still alive, although he's old because he's over 80 years now. That's the first day I met Mbulelo.
When you met him, did you know he was a Kaida?
Yes, I knew.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's fast forward. Babu Kenny, to the days leading to this battle. What was happening around you, around him, in the area, in the house?
Okay. I must first point out that I stayed with Mbulelo 14 months. All that 14 months, I would not see him at most 14 days, at most, in that 14 months.
Where was this?
We stayed at Luhwaizo, we stayed at Ngakai, we stayed at Mtata. I was trained by Mbulelo. Mainly, trained. Also, other comrades did train me, but the main person who used to train me continuously
was Mbulelo.
Yes.
Now, when Mbulelo came to your house, your home,
yes,
did the parents, your mother, siblings, knew of Mbulelo as a Keita or Mbulelo as a guy from another village?
No, they knew him as a Keita.
Okay.
Remember, I first asked the permission to my father.
Okay.
Remember, also my father is a struggle.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So it was not difficult to tell him that what was happening at school and what are the changes that needs us to engage other comrades now that are in exile. And then there's how Mbulelo came.
Okay.
And he came with his poor Mazwai, Fan, from his home was in Grahamstown. Remember, Mbulelo's home is in Port Elizabeth. For them to climatize in Transkei I had to orientate them.
Mm, mm,
And west, they were from exile again,
mm,
having a certain training which I needed to assist them to climatize
mm,
into this environment.
mm.
And it was very easy to do that with both of them because they were good listeners.
Mm,
Uh, Mbulelo is a different character.
mm.
Remember, Mbulelo was an instructor of MCW.
Mm,
MCW is a course that is not given any other person willy-willy.
mm.
I can say without contradiction that the people that were trained on MCW it should be 20% of the total MK comrades. It's not
That would be
everybody.
military combat work.
Yes, it was not trained.
Meaning that all the aspects that will teach you how to behave, where you are when you are where, how to interact with the people, are everything that
Yes.
has to be known about military.
No, it's more of an intelligent course.
Mm.
And furthermore, remember, he was an instructor of it.
Mm.
And furthermore, he was training other instructors to instruct it.
Mm.
Preparing them when he was going to come inside the country. He prepared other instructors of how to teach combat work.
Mm.
I had that advantage of being trained by him in the MCW. And you would see his tactics, his way of planning. Because when the routes, for example, if you take that route from where he left Lukhuaizo after the battle, he ran 29 kilometers at night within 4 hours in these mountains. From there, the following day, he took 97 kilometers to Mtata on foot. In preparation of that route of Mtata, we had 3 routes that we used to prepare and travel them without being detected by the people that were traveling this route. Because we knew that one day we will have to escape and which route we should take, which type of communication we should have, and all that. But we never prepared that much that the engagement would take place at Lukhuaizo. The whole area that we prepared the engagement that will take place was at Nagai, because it's where our main commander was staying, Maqhekeza, and it's where the area we will always consider it as less vulnerable compared to Lukhuaizo. But the enemy caught us at Lukhuaizo anyway. What can I tell you about Mbulelo with the struggle?
Okay, maybe we'll get to that. I want us to talk about that fateful day. What led, in your perspective, what led into that raid? Where do you think and when do you think it started up until you had these guys surrounding your home? What happened?
Yes. Remember, that information is there on Truth Commission. It's available. One of the policemen there called Sikolo, Nkosinathi Sikolo, explains it explicitly of narrating what happened at Lukhuaizo and why they came at Lukhuaizo, what did they do. He is explaining from the police perspective. What made them to come to Lukhuaizo was an ID that they caught in one of our comrades in Durban. It is that comrade had that ID and had a lot of money. And when the police asked him why he's having a new ID, whereas he's old, he said he has just renewed it. And they said, but the passport is saying a new issue, saying you are renewing it. And then they contacted Transkei Police, Transkei Home Affairs then, and inquire about the procedure of the passport. And when they were going through that, they said these are the passports that have recently lost in their offices. So the person who's carrying that passport is linked to the people that have stolen those passports. It was started there. And those people that were working at Potchefstroom, where the passports were, also were linked with the brother of our commander, Maqhekeza, a man called Jugat. So it all started there. And when Jugat was pressed by the police, where his brother was, Jugat said the person who should know that is a man called DeLongs. And DeLongs, because DeLongs was always drunk, right? And he saw Maqhekeza and Mafu because he grew up in the same area with them. And went to Jugat and said, I have seen your brother. And Jugat thought, out of the drunkenness of DeLongs, it's possible the whole thing has leaked through DeLongs. And DeLongs said, boy is also another my name beside Kenny. I will tell you about the Kenny part of it. Kenny is my combat name. That's how they came here. And then when they arrived here, they were looking for Boy. And Boy and Maqhekeza. And they got Mbulelo. Because the yard is big, they underestimated it when they came. They could not surround all of it. Of course, there were many because they had already asked for the backup from the soldiers. So by the time they were surrounding it, the soldiers were not close enough. And Mbulelo shot at them and ran into the bush. They arrested me. They took my gun. I said I must go and show them where Mbulelo is. Where Mbulelo is sleeping, I went there. When they were busy shooting at Mbulelo's room, the argument between the police, one police said he has left. Others said no, he's still inside. The other one said no, he is still inside because he knocked, wanted to get out. I said to him, get out. It was that argument. And fortunately, along at home, there is a small bush, I will not call a forest. There is a more dense bush around the yard. That's where the Battle of Lukhwaizo took place. It took place, the shooting started at about 6 until sunset. Sunrise again, around 12, it stopped. It stopped when I was arrested in the forest on the following day, about 12.
You were arrested?
Yes. Remember, I went in the same bush.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I thought when they came, they looked for you and they arrested you and requested that you accompany them to Mbulelo's room. You are arrested that time. And how did it come for you to let loose and join Mbu in the bush? What happened?
It's because I collaborated. In the first place, when they first arrested me, they said, where is my gun? I gave them.
Okay.
And remember, I was 22 years old.
Yes.
And I looked very
very young and innocent.
And innocent.
Yes.
So I went there with them. I showed them the house where Kaya was. Was. And they continued shouting among themselves, arguing among themselves, shooting into Kaya's room. I rolled into the forest. That's how I left.
Wow. Okay. Okay. You
So they
disappeared because
arrested.
it was even dark.
No, not dark. Really,
It was during the day. Okay.
No, about 6. Remember, it's summer.
Or at 6 in the morning.
6 in the morning. It's summer, January.
Okay.
So I went to the bush until 12 o'clock the following day.
Mm.
So I couldn't communicate with Mbulelo in the bush.
Yes.
Yes. I only met Mbulelo in September after I have escaped from prison.
Okay. Okay.
It's when I met Mbulelo in Lesotho again, September.
Okay.
It's when we started to debrief each other what really happened at Lukhwaizo
Okay.
and why we could not communicate whilst we were in the same forest.
Yes.
And because it's very important to explain this part,
Mm.
because people think by virtue that I was interrogated and I went to the forest and showed the police weapons,
Mm.
they think I was fighting in the forest.
Okay. Okay.
Even my sister doesn't believe me.
Mm.
He's saying Mbulelo was not fighting alone there because there were times that the people that were shooting in the forest were not, it was not one person who was shooting at the forest. I was also
Okay.
shooting.
Okay.
But here we want a true story. We don't want an addition by an inch. It must be a true story. Hence, an opportunity like this is with me is to tell all the people that participated on the Battle of Lukhwaizo, police, soldiers, whoever participated there, to come forward and narrate the story for future generations. As the family, we have passed the issue of wanting compensation, who burned our house, who interrogated us. We are less interested with that. We want just a true story that can teach the people of South Africa. The reason why you see the commemoration that was done by Paul Mashatile is because we have an organization called BOLD, which is the Battle of Lukhwaizo Development, which carries 3 aspects. An aspect of teaching people about conflict. What are the impact of conflict? What happens in a conflict environment? You have mentioned the children of Ivy Green. Those are the lessons that are being taught of this is the price of conflict. Because the reason people do not understand our freedom, they have not understood what conflict is all about. What conflict was happening is being bent down completely. No people in the household.
We have about 5 minutes. I want us
Yes.
to conclude this. When was it when you were informed that Mbulelo was kidnapped from Lesotho?
I was in the camps in Angola. That was 1988, around February. The first instance was when they were shot in that ambush between Mafeking and the Roma University. When Khadebe was shot dead and Maqhekeza was shot and then he was taken to hospital and Mbulelo escaped unhurt in that instance. That's the first time that I heard that there was the situation in Lesotho was turning horrible. And then the second part was the visit by the chief of staff in the army in North. And he told me that both these comrades, Mbulelo has disappeared and the other comrade, Maqhekeza, has died. Also, you will know in the camps here that we had the rate of we had a news session which could hear bits and bits of pieces, although those pieces were not accurate. But the person who gave me a picture of what has happened was Chief of Staff. By luck, you know, because I had met Chief of Staff in Zambia before I went to the camp. And when we were at the camps, he noticed me and he called me. Chief of Staff was that person who was having an extra ability to remember people by names, of knowing each soldier who he is. And he told me that. Again, when I was in Zambia, because immediately after that, I got to China. And then I was taken to Zambia. When I was in Zambia, I met Comrade Mazola. He also explained me what has happened to our unit. Remember, in our unit now, the person that we could not account for up to now is Mbulelo.
Yes, yeah, very painful truth. And the mother went to her grave looking for her son. We are not going to rest, some of us, in institutions that we belong to and as individuals, until at least we are shown where Mbulelo's grave is. The people of Gqeberha wish to acknowledge the role that your family has played in making sure that their son had a home away from home. On that note, any parting note from you, Kenny, as we come to the end of our program? Anything you want to say?
Yes, I would love that the people of South Africa can take peace seriously and take sustainable development very seriously. You know, the values of Bold makes us a person quite understanding of how these values should be kept amongst our people. On top of that, all of us, let's refrain from violence. The violence starts at our mouth, the way we communicate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. On that note, we've come to the end of our program. Certainly, we'll be treating and dealing with this program of Mbulelo. This is not for the last time. We thank you very much. And Tate Kenny, thank you to your family. And from me, Lennox Class, it's good night.